3 years ago in May, so this is the completion of the first 3-year period. In the very first year, we had 4 Teach for America teachers. We reached a peak, I think, in the area of 35 Teach for America teachers last year. This year, it's 7 Teach for America teachers we're adding, and we're looking probably going forward in the area of somewhere around 10 to 15 per year Teach for America teachers that we would add to our teaching staff. Teach for America is a program that brings teachers from other programs, typically than education programs, but sometimes from education programs into K-12 education. We've had teachers join us from across the country, and many of them are still here teaching. Teacher of the Year last year was Mr. Scribner, who formed the wrestling team at Johnson and is leading that. He will be staying with us, I'm pretty sure, since he bought a house, and it's a good indicator. And he's done very, very well, so he's one that we can point to. We had Winston Crute at Lee High School, who helped lead their math program to much higher ACT scores through the summer STEM program.
Butler High School.
Exactly. Winston's now becoming a doctor down at UAB, but still comes up to work with our kids in the summer STEM program. So while he's not cutting into people, he's up here helping our kids. We had Kapil McCoat, who formed the SOUL program, Student-Oriented Learning Exercise at Butler, the theater project at Butler, and the soccer team at Butler. He has now gone on to, I think, Harvard, somewhere like that. We had 2 teachers accepted at Harvard School of Education this year who Teach for Americas, who I was happy to recommend. They're going to go off to Harvard, and hopefully we'll get them back here. They did great work at Johnson last year. They helped with the cap and gown tour. And it looks like Keith has found our presentation.
I think we're ready for a recommendation. But I have a few slides I'd like to share just to give you some background for those of you who are not aware of Teach for America. Basically, they are a national recruiter for teachers. They help us to select. They provide multitude of trainings for new teachers. They're also committed to being focused on closing the achievement gap. So they hire these new teachers with the goal that they're going to go into some of our more challenged schools, and they're going to really be able to work within that staff to help close the achievement gap. So they're all about what does that school's data tell us and how can they be supportive in closing those gaps. We work with Teach for America at the very onset. Dr. Wadinsky, myself, our talent management department actually meet with the executive director to have conversations about our needs. We talk about things such as what are our high needs areas, where are we needing to field teachers. We all know that math and certainly science, as well as languages and career academy teachers, are areas where we really need to get that additional support, and then they commit to helping us find those teachers that will be able to fill some of our needs in the district. They also help us to work in populations where we have free and reduced schools with 60% or higher with free and reduced lunch. Those are their preferences. However, there are some instances where we have conversations and we're wanting to talk with them about maybe some additional placements in terms of places where we also need needs and teachers that can help fulfill some of those goals within the schools. Huntsville City Schools is responsible for the compensation of our Teach for America teachers, and we do for American annual fee for each teacher that is employed through them. TFA have responsibilities to us as part of this agreement. They help us with candidate recruitment and selection. As I've indicated, we sit with them. We have conversations ongoing throughout the year about what we believe our needs are, and they discuss how they're able to help us meet those needs. They look for teachers with a broad arrangement of backgrounds, academic backgrounds, career majors and fields, and things that they can really bring into our district that might be unique. Their teachers are oftentimes from diverse backgrounds. Some of them have been educated in other countries, and they certainly come from places across the United States. Their teachers have to attend mandatory pre-service training where they're really learning about how to be a good teacher, what classroom management is all about, and the structures that need to be in place when they walk into that classroom on the first day, which is sometimes things that our teachers coming right out of university as new teachers don't necessarily get all of that extensive training. Haven't been one of those. I know that to be true. So these teachers do walk in the door with a lot of background about what they need to do on the very first day of school. They also have ongoing PD. They're constantly looking at the data and making sure that they are aware of what they need to be doing in the classrooms and that they're using those formative assessments to inform the instruction in their classrooms. They are expected to be highly qualified and they do have to remain credentialed. That's one of their responsibilities. Since 2012, 13, 14, they've made up less than 10% of our total hires. I know oftentimes people think when you have TFAs in your district that they're the majority of your teachers being hired. You can see here that from 2012, 13 all the way to 2015, 16, they have been less than 10% of our hires, with the largest number being in 2013, 14, with 33 teachers being hired. But the green represents our Teach for America teachers, and the orange represent our new hires in each of those years. 73% states. They also come from, you can see that breakdown in those states. Alabama does have the largest number of TFAs in Huntsville City Schools. However,
it is the majority of our TF teachers are concentrated in our elementary grades from K through 6, with that being the highest number of teachers employed. What's interesting is our TFA teachers actually have similar probationary review scores and student satisfaction scores to our traditional teachers. Once again, sometimes the misnomer is that the TFA teachers are not performing as well, but you'll see that when they go through our probationary review process, they do about the same as our traditional hires in elementary, as well as all of our secondary grades. You'll also see that their student satisfaction scores are very similar. These are surveys that students actually give us feedback about how our teachers are performing, and our TFA teachers stack up to our traditional teachers.
Barbara, so when we look at review scores, these are TFAs compared to all teachers across the school system. Mm-hmm. So the greens are TFAs. So if I read the first one there, 86% of the points were earned by TFA hires. Non-TFA hires were 80%.
That is correct.
And that's in elementary.
Elementary.
In high school, TFA hires earned 83% of possible points compared to 80% for the district average for non-TFA hires.
That is correct.
So they're actually outperforming.
A little bit higher, yes.
In more difficult school environments with regard to needing to close gaps and accelerate student learning. And then we see the students, see them to be essentially the same as the teachers from traditional programs in terms of satisfaction.
And that is very good data for us to have as educators, because it helps inform professional learning, but it's also data that our principals go back and share with their staffs. They actually take a look at this and are able to inform what next steps need to be.
And Dr. Cooper, we may need to share this information with our PTAs so that they have that conversation with the parents so they can see the performance levels of the TFAs compared to the traditional teachers.
And our review scores are comprised of student achievement,
observation
of classrooms by teachers from other schools,
the student satisfaction surveys,
student satisfaction survey, principal observations,
discipline,
student attendance, teacher attendance, discipline.
That is correct. So once again, that's a good point, that we're not only looking at one factor, we're looking at all of these various indicators to come up with that probationary review score. So that's a really comprehensive look and not just one data point at how our TFA teachers are doing.
And in a snapshot for those who may not be familiar, when you say these data points, it's done by committee, it's done by...
That is correct. It's not one teacher, it's not one principal. It's actually done by a committee out of Debbie Miser's department, Talent Management, where they take a look at all of these various pieces to determine whether or not a teacher is performing at satisfactory levels.
And would that committee be diverse?
Very diverse, yes. That's a requirement of the committee.
With regard to certification, these teachers all carry a Alabama teacher certificate.
Correct. They have to be credentialed, and they are responsible for maintaining their certification. Next slide, please. Okay, and Dr. Wadinsky shared some of those TFA accomplishments at the beginning. Certainly, we had the Huntsville City School Teacher of the Year at Johnson. They started the Cap and Gown program at Johnson that we've had at a previous board meeting. They restarted the theater program at Butler. This group has performed in many different performances, and I believe they went out of town as well and did a performance. And they restarted the wrestling program at Johnson, and I actually saw the young man who placed very well in state and was on his way the other day to some additional competition. So that program is definitely up and running and thriving quite well. So those are just a few of the accomplishments. We could make many lists of all of the wonderful things they brought to their schools, but it's been a benefit to Huntsville City Schools. That's all I have.
Board members, any questions?
I have one. The teacher's qualifications, it meets or exceeds all other qualifications. This is not a special category for the people at home. This is, their qualifications meet or exceed any other teacher that would be hired into the system, right?
Correct.
What makes these teachers a little different from the outset is when they sign on, they know they're signing on to work in schools with needs for large learning gains. That's why traditionally their focus is on schools with about 70% poverty, because those are traditionally schools where we need to have the largest gains, and that's where they want to work. And so to honor the sort of process that brings kids out of Harvard and William and Mary and Notre Dame that we've had here, that brought them into Teach for America, we placed them in schools where they felt their calling was. And then after 2 years there, we move them around the school district. So the first 2 years are in those focus schools, and then we begin moving them to other schools. I think we've had them in several of our schools around the district, Williams, I think even at Grissom. And they're doing quite well and sticking with us. So they've gone beyond their 2 years. They're now going to be permanent members of the Huntsville City teaching force.
Board members, any other questions? Anybody in the audience have a question?
Adam Keller, AEA. I was just wondering about the annual fee. Am I correct that it's $5,000?
It is. We pay for 2 years, fee for professional development and search. So the TFA does the search for us. We would have no ability to search at Notre Dame or MIT or Harvard or William and Mary or American University or Cal Poly or University of Illinois or the various places these teachers come from. So they accomplish that for us, and then they do the PD as well to prepare them before they arrive, and then while they're here, they also do ongoing PD.
How much would the current contract cost?
It's per teacher, so if we hire 0 TFA teachers, it's 0. If we hire 1, it's $5,000 1 year, $5,000 the next year, and then that's it.
But that's on top of our traditional salaries.
We pay TFA the fee. We pay our teachers our salary.
How does the district evaluate the effectiveness of this contract in regards to retention rate?
Well, I think you've seen effectiveness with regard to performance. Then we look on to reach into this force. They're, by and large, I would characterize them as a strong group who would have strong leadership capabilities. So our goal there is to see them move on teachers, teacher leaders, or school leaders. And so to do that, they need to stay with us. And we're seeing them continue at rates that are higher than most other school districts see. I think we're in about a third rate. So that's about where we expected it to be.
I just want to get some clarification on the rationale behind the Teach for America contract. Is it because we have vacancies that need to be filled, or is it because of the program itself?
No, it's multiple things. They bring strong people who are very strong in fields that are difficult to fill. They bring experiences that are far beyond the boundaries of Huntsville. They've demonstrated capacity to take our kids beyond the thinking that would be limited by geography. They've physically taken them to Europe for the Cap and Gown tour, the Ivy League schools for the Cap and Gown tour. They've created programs that are increasingly novel. The summer STEM program, which has raised ACT scores by 2 points in one summer. So we look across the many things they bring vis-a-vis their very small numbers and think they bring something to the table that we would not otherwise have.
All right, one last question. if I'm correct, there's a plan to add about 10 to 15 per year going forward.
We forecast with TFA what we think our requirements in the out years will be, so that they can forecast their needs to go out and be in schools, the various Ivy Leagues and so forth, recruiting. So we've given them guidance. We think it'll probably be in the range of 10 to 15 a year.
So do we have a total estimate for this upcoming school year?
Well, this coming school year at 7, we've already hired them.
7 additional, correct?
7.
So only 7 Teach for America teachers will be?
No, hired.
Okay.
You said hired. The existing ones we own. They're our teachers. Hiring means they're new.
Right. Thank you.
Next item. Step increases for class.
In July, the salary year for the district began, and in conjunction with that new year, we've got a line item for you tonight. It's requesting board consideration of allowing for step increases for our approximately 650 classified employees at the district. The step increases would take effect immediately for the 12-month employees. The cost burden on the district was contemplated in the original budget that was approved by the board. We wanted to bring this back before you tonight to ask for your consideration and an active vote. The adjustment approximates 2.7%. There's no exact math. It's based on the grade and step and current salary of each individual classified employee, eligible classified employee, but the average across the district would approximate 2.7%.
So if I'm in the audience and I say, who's classified, what would you say?
But generally, it's the support staff, the non-certified, non-teacher personnel.
So our folks that do food services, our custodial folks, our to the extent we have any transportation folks, the people that take care of the buildings for us, secretarial staff, the folks in human resources, finance that are bookkeepers and so forth. Those would be pretty much the set, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And the instructional aides as well, I think, right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And a point of clarification: these step increases for the certified personnel will come into effect based on their calendar year. So if it's a 9 or 10 month employee, those are automatically approved and also budgeted.
So this is about 2.7%?
Yes, sir.
So this immediate for 12 months. So the 10-month employees would take place when?
In 2 months.
2 months, and then the 9 months after that.
Yes, ma'am.
Because they're going to ask going down the hallway, well, when's mine's going to kick in? So I need to be able to tell them that.
Sure.
And
If they're here and they're working and you all have approved it, it's in effect.
The state resources, to the extent that it resources at all, support workers a little differently. It's in an account called other current expenditures. Other current expenditures come to the school systems as a block of money, and it's based on some sort of a screwy formula.
Loosely based.
That puts our support workers in a category where their pay is derivative of the school system. School systems determine the pay levels, the pay steps, and the rate at which the pay will increase without necessarily being promoted. So that's up to the boards of education in the various 136 school systems in the state. That's its contrast to teachers and people with a license. The nurses, librarians, counselors, teachers, those folks. So Barbara Cooper is a teacher in the case of salary matrices normally, but we have a separate matrix for some of our administrative staff. Principals would be a teacher, but they're also separately handled. But other than those folks, the state has a matrix. It's called the salary matrix for teachers. The vast majority of school systems, I think, out of the 136, probably 130 are on that schedule. We're one of those. It prescribes what are called steps and lanes. Steps are the same as these steps. Every so many years, automatically, teachers progress. I think it's every 3 years.
Yes.
They would go to the next step, which is a level higher. The lane is their education level. So the base lane would be a bachelor's. The next, I think, is a master's. Then there's the 6 years of education, and then the doctorate. And so teachers can move diagonally. They can move to higher levels of education and higher levels of longevity. And every 3 years, that longevity triggers an automatic step increase. So the board never has to vote on a step increase for teachers. But they do for the non-licensed employees. So that's why they're different.
Thank you.
Question. this, a lot of the things like these step raises and stuff like that the board is able to do is directly related back to the financial health of the system. Since you've been here, Casey and Jason, it's been great strides that's been made, and we wouldn't have the ability to even consider something like this if we didn't have the support and the financial wherewithal. So I applaud the work that y'all done in that area to support our employees.
Thank you. Thanks.
Point 2.7, at will employment and resignation.
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Then it is approved. Next item. The superintendent recommends approval of the human resources report.
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. It is approved. Superintendent, you have a summary?
With this action, the board's approved 1 retirement of a certified employee, 1 retirement of a classified employee, 29 resignations of certified employees were approved, 1 resignation of a classified employee was approved, 53 certified employees were approved for employment, 3 classified employees were approved for employment, 13 certified employees were approved for transfer or reassignment, and 5 classified employees were approved for transfer or reassignment.
Thank you. Next item. The superintendent recommends authorization of step raises for all district classified employees for the 2016 payroll year, which began July 2015.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Then it is approved. Next item. The superintendent recommends approval of the district educational professional service agreement between Teach for America, Inc. and the Huntsville City School District.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. It is approved. That was our last new business item. We will now have board members and superintendent comments, starting with
I don't have anything earth-shaking, but I think there's a little humor in here. There was some talk about the superintendent's evaluation being 99.6, and we have a superintendent across the way over there that made 100%. And we need to have a remediation program for our superintendent, and I'm going to ask Jackie Reed to monitor it and give us a report a year from now. Anyway, everything is on schedule right now, and I'm very pleased with what I see, and we're increasing our marketing, getting our name out, and getting all these things that we're doing out in the public, and I think that's great. We just need to continue. That's it.
okay. Ms. Riley.
I met with the 2 new PTA presidents and 1 continuing PTA president for Hampton Cove Elementary School, Debbie Tetrault, Hampton Cove Middle, April, and Goldsmith Schiffman, Misty, and had a nice cup of coffee, talked for a couple of hours to get to know each other, and already have set up an additional meeting time with their individual boards to happen after school starts. And we also participated today in the webinar with the AASB about legislative updates, and I think Laura's going to talk a little bit more about that.
I want to encourage everybody, if you haven't received an email from your school yet, make sure to go to the website for your school to find out when your orientation times are for the different grade levels and when class assignments will be posted on the windows, because that's going to be happening soon, so you don't want to miss that. And I know I looked up tax-free weekend. That's going to happen August 8th and 9th, so don't buy your tennis shoes before school starts. Wait until the week after. And the State Board of Education met on Tuesday, and one of the things they talked about was starting to establish best practices for students with dyslexia and how to keep them in the main classroom and use services that we already have in place to help those children. So that's a work in progress, but just to get that on everybody's radar and pay attention to that. That's it.
I think it appears everything that Jeff and everybody's talked about tonight in the computers and everything that's going forward. We're moving into a new school year, and it looks like the staff has done a very exceptional job on getting everything prepared, and so I think everybody's looking forward to a new school year.
Beth mentioned the webinar that we attended today, and one of the new legislative pieces that they were talking about was the Truth in Salary Act. And so basically it stated by January the 16th of 2016, the school system must give us, every employee, an annual benefit statement. And so what's different about it, it now must include what the district pays on behalf of the employee. So what percentage we pay of your insurance will now be on there. The $10,000 life insurance we cover for you will now be on there. And I think it'll be an eye-opener for the employees to see how much benefits that we're paying that they don't have knowledge of, and then it gives you a better idea of what your salary truly is. Now, Lisa thinks there's other motives for this act, but the teacher retirement system will be responsible for providing it to retirees, but the LEAs will be responsible for all active employees. And they also spoke about errands law, which says that now the LEAs were responsible for developing a curriculum to educate children about child sexual abuse. They're supposed to be age appropriate. So I'm waiting to see that come through right here. And last but not least, I want to encourage everybody, the annual Back to School Parade sponsored by the Northwest Cluster PTAs is coming on. And it's always emotional to me because I founded that thing and put it together almost 20 years ago. And it's my baby. I've been watching other people nurture it, and they have a chance to continue to keep it alive. I had an opportunity to meet with Johnson's PTSA executive committee about the parade activities, and they're doing a good job and continuing to getting everything together. That's all I have to say. Superintendent, you have something? Oh, and don't forget, parents, if you hadn't done I-Now, please get that done. Please check for open houses, and I'm going to ask our administrators to be mindful when you set these open houses to be considerate of families who have multi-level children. And they can't be at your one school from 5 to 6 and be at another school at 6:15 to 6:30. And you make parents choose between their children. So, and for clarification, there was not a board action, because I heard that too, that the board mandated them to be all at the same date. But that ain't true. I'm just clearing it up. But we're going to adjourn for about 5 minutes. We're through with our business. We will come back for citizen comments.